A brief explanation of the mind-body problem by Kendra Jensen. According to dictionary.com, the definition of the mind-body problem is the problem of explaining the relation of the mind to the body. So what does that mean? We now accept the fact that we have a mind, meaning the totality of conscious and unconscious mental processes and activities. That is from dictionary.com as well. We also know we have a body. We can feel it, use it, and control it every day. The mind-body problem is just as it sounds. It's the problem of how those two things are connected. Simplypsychology.org explains the problem like this. One of the central questions in psychology and philosophy concerns the mind-body problem. Is the mind part of the body, or is the body part of the mind? If they are distinct, then how do they interact? And which of the two is in charge? There are two main contrasting views, dualism and monism. In regards to this problem, the simplepsychology.org explains, human beings are material objects. We have weight, solidity, and consist of a variety of solids, liquids, and gases. However, unlike other material objects, like rocks, humans also have the ability to form judgments and reason their existence. In short, we have minds. Typically, humans are characterized as having both a mind, non-physical, and a body-brain, physical. This is known as dualism. Dualism is the view that the mind and body both exist as separate entities. Descartes and Cartesian dualism argues that there is a two-way interaction between mental and physical substances. Descartes argued that the mind interacts with the body at the pineal gland. This form of dualism or duality process proposes that the mind controls the body, but that the body can also influence the otherwise rational mind, such as when people act out of passion. Most of the previous accounts of the relationship between mind and body have been unidirectional. Monism, there are two basic types of. There's materialism, which is the belief that nothing exists apart from the material world, physical matter like the brain. Materialist psychologists generally agree that consciousness, the mind, is the function of the brain. Mental processes can be identified with purely physical processes in the central nervous system, and that human beings are just complicated physiological organisms, no more than that. Phenomenalism, also called subjective idealism, believes that physical objects and events are reducible to mental objects, properties, and events. Ultimately, only mental objects, the mind, exist. Bishop Berkeley claimed that what we think of our body is merely the perception of mind. Before you reject this too rapidly, consider the results of a recent study. Scientists asked 3 hemiplegic, loss of movement from one side of the body, stroke victims with damage to the right hemispheres of their brains about their abilities to move their arms. All 3 claimed, despite evidence to the contrary in the mirror in front of them, that they could move their right and left hands equally well. Behaviorists believe that psychology should only be concerned with observable actions, namely stimulus and response. They believe that thought processes such as the mind cannot be studied significantly and objectively and should therefore be ignored. Radical behaviorists believe that the mind does not even exist. The biologists who argue that the mind does not exist because there is no physical structure called the mind also follow this approach. Since both behaviorists and biologists believe that only one type of reality exists, those we can see, feel, and touch, their approach is known as monism. Monism is the belief that ultimately the mind and the brain are the same thing. The behaviorist and the biological approaches believe in materialism monism. However, biologists and behaviorists cannot account for the phenomenon of hypnosis. Hilgard and Orn have studied this. They placed participants in a hypnotic trance and through unconscious hypnotic suggestion told the participants that they would be touched with a red-hot piece of metal when they were actually touched with a pencil. The participants in a deep trance had a skin reaction, water blisters, just as if they had been touched with burning metal. This is an example of the mind controlling the body's reaction. Similar results have been found on patients given hypnosis to control pain. This contradicts the monism approach, as the body should not react to unconscious suggestions in this way. This study supports the idea of dualism, the view that the mind and the body function separately.